So, how does a tiny village built on just a few muddy hills turn into a global superpower that literally shapes the world for thousands of years? Well, it definitely doesn't happen by accident. It happens by design. Today, we're going to uncover the blueprint that ancient Rome used to build its incredible empire. But first, think about this for a second. How does where you live shape who you become? Your access to things, the climate, the landscape, it all has a huge impact. Well, for the early Romans, this wasn't just some deep philosophical question. It was everything. Their geography was basically their destiny. All right, so here's our game plan. First up, we'll look at the land itself, that perfect location that gave Rome a serious head start. Then we'll see how they were not afraid to borrow the best ideas from their neighbors. After that, we'll get into their most radical creation, the Republic. We're also going to look at the deep social divisions that almost tore it all apart, and finally, how they held it all together with the revolutionary idea of written law. Every great building starts with a solid foundation. And for Rome, that foundation wasn't made of stone. It was made of earth and water. Long before there were any emperors, Rome's greatest asset was simply its spot on the map. Just take a look at Rome's position right here. It is smack dab in the middle of everything. Being on the Italian peninsula, which juts right out into the heart of the Mediterranean Sea, made it a natural crossroads. This was the perfect spot for trade, for soaking up new ideas, and yeah, for conquest. Seriously, they hit the geographic jackpot. To the north, you've got the massive Alps, which acted like a natural wall against invaders. The Tiber River was their source of fresh water and a highway out to the sea. The city itself, built on 7 hills, making it a natural fortress. And here's the real kicker. Unlike the rocky, isolating terrain of Greece, Italy had wide, fertile plains. And that meant one crucial thing: food. Enough food to support a massive population and a future army. But a perfect location only gets you so far, right? You need a plan, a blueprint. And the early Romans were brilliant architects of culture, not because they invented everything themselves, but because they were master borrowers. They just took the best ideas from everyone around them and made them even better. As you can see, Roman civilization wasn't built in a bubble. Their own ancestors, the Latins, gave them their language. From the Greeks, who'd set up colonies in southern Italy, they nabbed the alphabet, art, and even their gods. And from the super advanced Etruscans to the north, they learned some real game-changing engineering skills. Oh, and they also got their most famous fashion choice, the toga. And let me tell you, that engineering was a game changer. Learning to use the arch, for instance, meant they could build these massive structures that would stand for centuries. And maybe even more important, they learned how to drain the swampy lowlands around the Tiber River. This turned what was basically uninhabitable marsh into prime real estate, the very heart of their future city. This wasn't just abstract knowledge, it was practical stuff that built Rome from the ground up. So, they had the location. They had the cultural tools. Now comes their most audacious move. After generations of being ruled by kings, the Romans decided, you know what? We've had enough. They were going to do something totally radical, take the power for themselves, and design a brand new kind of government. According to their own stories, it all goes something like this. After the legendary founding by Romulus, Rome was ruled by a line of kings. But in 509 BCE, they had a revolution. They kicked out their last tyrannical king, a guy named Tarquin the Proud. And they made a solemn promise. Never again would one single person hold absolute power in their city. And their solution was the Republic. The name itself actually comes from the Latin phrase res publica, which literally means the public thing. The whole idea was that the state belonged to the people, not some all-powerful king. It was a system designed from the ground up with one goal in mind: to stop tyranny in its tracks. So how did it work? Well, assemblies of male citizens would elect the officials. At the very top, instead of a king, they had 2 consuls who ran the government and led the army. But here's the clever bit. There were always 2 of them. They could only serve for 1 year, and, this is crucial, each consul could veto or block the other's decisions. It was the ultimate check on power. But the real power, that was with the Senate, an assembly of 300 men from Rome's richest families who controlled the laws and all the money. But there is a massive flaw in this new design. See, by getting rid of a king, the Romans had accidentally created a new kind of problem, a deep and bitter divide between the haves and the have-nots. Okay, so early Roman society was basically split into two groups. At the top, you had the patricians, the wealthy, aristocratic landowners. They held all the power, controlling the Senate, the laws, the top army positions, the whole shebang. And then there was everybody else, the plebeians. This was the huge majority of the population, the farmers, the soldiers, the merchants. They did all the work and fought all the wars, but in the early republic, they had pretty much zero voice in their own government. This massive inequality was just a ticking time bomb. The plebeians knew the city couldn't survive without them, without their labor and their service as soldiers. So they started to demand change. This kicked off a conflict that lasted for generations, known as the Struggle of the Orders, and it would completely reshape the Republic. One of their first major victories was a huge one. The plebeians demanded that the laws be written down. Why? So that the patrician judges couldn't just make up the rules as they went along or twist them to benefit their own class. The result was the laws of the 12 tables, which were carved out and posted in the public forum for everyone to see. For the very first time, the law was out in the open, transparent, and, in theory, applied to everyone. Next, the plebeians won the right to elect their own officials, called tribunes, to represent them. And these tribunes were given a political superpower, the veto. It comes from the Latin for "I forbid." And the veto gave a tribune the power to single-handedly stop any official act or law they thought was harmful to the common people. This was a massive shift of power from the wealthy few to the majority. And all of these innovations, the structure of the republic, the fight for equality, the power of written law, they all bring us to our final point, Rome's incredible, lasting legacy. The blueprint they created during the Republic wouldn't just build an empire, it would become the foundation for so much of Western civilization. I mean, just think about the impact. The idea of a government with elected representatives and checks and balances, that's Roman. The core principle that everyone is subject to the law, no matter how powerful you are, Roman. The linguistic roots of Spanish, French, Italian, and even a huge chunk of English. That's all from Roman Latin. Their influence is literally all around us. It's really no exaggeration to say that the experiments in government and law that happened in this one city thousands of years ago profoundly shaped the world we all live in today. As this quote says, they truly laid the foundation for what we call Western civilization. And that leaves us with one last thought to chew on. The Romans were obsessed with preventing any one person from getting too powerful. So, as you look at governments around the world today, where do you see the echoes of their solutions? Things like term limits, having multiple leaders share power, the ability to veto laws. Turns out, Rome's 2,500-year-old blueprint for a republic is still very much in use.